I'm Jen Bosworth Ramirez.
And I'm Gina Polici.
We went to theater school together. We survived it, but we didn't quite understand it.
20 years later, we're digging deep, talking to our guests about their experiences and trying to make sense of it all.
We survived theater school, and you will too. Are we famous yet?
Are we joining a cult? Not yet, or soon? Just let me know.
I decided that the cult I want to join is our cult of fellow undeniable. Like when I just wrote you that email, I just formulated at least one piece of what it is, which is that we are. And I had to change it a bunch of times because the first time I wrote it out, I was like, we think we might find that we are part of a larger community of women over 40 who, for whatever reason, had to abandon their primary artistic pursuit and who are now returning to it with an undeniable voice and vision.
Oh, fantastic.
That's my cult.
That's a good cult.
You don't have to give me money unless you want to buy merchandise or unless we monetize our podcast. You don't have to have sex with me for sure. In fact, you don't have to do anything for me. We're all just going to be. That's the kind of cult I can get behind.
Well, I was going to say that could be our tagline is undeniable, a cult you can get behind. Hey, let me run this by you.
Okay, no, so I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I hear a lot of people's opinions about things. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I hear coming up a lot from people when they're and it's always when they're talking about their profession, whether it's writing or stand-up or performing, whatever. And they always say, listen, this is a meritocracy. Only the best people, like, in other words, like, it's a career that you can't buy your way into, have nepotism, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Like, because, like, if you take the example, like Donald Trump inherited millions upon millions of dollars and squandered it. But the whole reason he's been able to stay in the game, if that's what you want to call it, is because he has this position of having come from money, et cetera.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. And people are always trying to tell you how that's not true in Hollywood or in entertainment. And I'm like, okay, almost nothing is a meritocracy. You're not going to be super successful necessarily in Hollywood if you don't have talent or merit. But this idea that you 100% clawed your way in just ignores all the things about you getting there that you don't even realize are going in your favor.
Yeah, it's so true. I think that is 100% correct. And even if you look at I'm thinking about my mom, right? So my mom came to this country from Colombia, and she would like to say, and she's dead, so I can talk shit about her and she can't get mad, but she would like to say, oh, I clawed my way in. Okay. They came from an upper middle class family in Colombia. Okay. Their skin wasn't so dark that they didn't look indigenous to other, they just looked like they had suntans. So mm-hmm. even that is it's this myth that if you, yeah, there is no such thing. I think the true clawing your way up, I think, happens in segments, and it happens, and there's a tremendous amount of privilege along the way, right?
Yeah.
There is no the people who really, really have to claw their way up, unfortunately, I would say, or whatever, I would say that they never make it because they can't keep clawing. They say, fuck this.
Right. Or they're so exceptional. I mean, they are people who are so exceptional. Or like, okay, I was even thinking about this about AOC, who I love.
Yeah.
I think she's amazing. I'm not certain she would be as popular as she is if she weren't so beautiful.
Right. I was going to say, if she weren't so beautiful, and she, for me, it goes a step further of like, she's thin, you know? So if she were not thin, I wonder, it's like, she's stunning, right? She's physically stunning. So there is no and actually, to be honest, I'm embarrassed to say, a meritocracy I've never heard of. What is?
Oh, meritocracy, like
meritocracy.
Yeah, based on merit. So like,
I thought it was a merit. I was like, what? Oh, meritocracy.
Yeah,
I thought you were calling a merit.
Oh, sorry. I'm probably slurring my words.
No. Drunk again.
I already, yes, it's 10:30 and I'm already on my fourth martini. No,
meritocracy.
Yeah. And,
okay.
And I really hate it when I hear cis white straight guys saying, writers who are like, listen, nobody opened any doors for me. And I'm like, wait, what? Nobody? Oh, are you? Of course, everybody opened a door for you.
You're born with a door open if you're a straight white dude. You know what I mean? Like don't even start. You shouldn't even like open your mouth.
Yeah. And also like that comes up with this whole endeavor that we're doing. I mean, we're only able to do this because we don't have to in another situation to be like, well, that'd be nice to do, but you have to have your full-time job with benefits because, other way you're not going to have a roof over your head. Like we're very privileged to be in a position where we can spend some time investing in our future success because we have we have money to sustain us while we're doing it.
I say it all the time. Like, people ask like, how are you able to, sit there and write about serial killers? I'm like, look, dude, my mom saved up a shit ton of money, died and left me some. And I have a partner that works a 9 to 5. I'm not going to pretend that I somehow, well, it's just not the truth. It wouldn't be the truth. If I was like, oh yeah, I really worked so hard. No, I worked hard to take care of my mom as she died, but I didn't, it's not my money. I mean, it is now, but.
It is your money. Even though, another example would be like, let's say you are a person born without much privilege, but you're exceptional. So you like go to a great school and then you get good jobs because you're friends with people who are hiring people. I mean, it's not that it's not merit-based because I'm willing to give you, but like acting is really not that merit-based. Acting is really looks based.
I would agree. And who you know, and who you know looks based. So like if you're stunning, people want to get to know you.
Yeah.
And then they want to help you.
Like I was talking to my son and he's like, Mom, like so many people in our town are like really tall and thin. And I'm like, yeah, people with money tend to be beautiful. They tend to be like tall. And that's why and actually, when my mom came here for the first time, we were someplace and she goes, finally, there's a fat person. I haven't seen any fat people. And I realized she was right. And yeah, so you're saying that you're born with money and you look good and then you just get to keep, and like, yeah, that's exactly right.
That's a meritocracy right there. A meritocracy. That is what I'm talking about.
I mean, so, and it could just be like, you could make the argument that I'm a hater because I'm, not further along. And okay, that could be.
Sure.
But
Both could be true.
That's true.
I'm all about the combo platter these days because I just grew up thinking in such black and white terms that like now I'm like, wait. Both can be true. Like I am jealous of people who are tall and thin. Okay. Partially that's ingrained in me because of the meritocracy that we live in, and partly but that is how I feel. Can feel sort of envious of that. And at the same time, it's gross. So both things are, like, it's really,
And listening to, it's a combo platter. I love that. And listening to this, because I'm all deep in the NXIVM stuff.
Oh, I can't wait to watch, but I'm also really scared to watch.
Oh, well, to me, it's just juicy and interesting. But I shouldn't say that because so many people were victimized by this group. But even that guy, this is more about how everything is psychology than nothing is a meritocracy. But that guy, super high IQ, all the privileges, white, male, straight. At the end of the day, this entire decade-spanning, multi-billion-dollar business with that evinced like countless lawsuits and has paid lawyers for years to come. It's all about that he hated his mother.
Oh my God.
And he wanted to punish women and have lots of sex. That's it.
Right.
It's like you can gussy it up in all kind of ways, but you're no different than somebody who's sitting in jail right now for sex crimes because he had the same urge that he couldn't overcome.
That is amazing that it comes down to, and I'm writing about this in my spec, but it comes down to being animals and having base needs of money, greed and sex and lust and you said it. You can dress it up any way you want, but this guy was basically a horny, angry pig. A horny, angry, greedy pig. And that's being mean to pigs. So he's just horny, angry, and greedy. I like pigs, but he's horny, angry, and greedy. That's what.
Yeah. It also gives you such an interesting insight into creation myths and why they come about, because one of the things that he did, so he, and like Scientology, like, I guess Scientology had all the terms that it had because that guy had he was in the Navy at some point. So that's why it's all like Navy flavored.
Navy flavored. Yeah. He's a Navy flavored cult.
It's a Navy flavored cult. Well, this guy grew up in Albany. So the cult is up there. He likes to play volleyball. So volleyball is part of the cult. Like,
shut up.
Oh yeah. You got to play volleyball.
Shut up. That's brilliant.
And
I didn't know that. Oh my God.
And you have to play, and he plays volleyball in the middle of the night. So
what?
Like,
this guy is amazing.
He's nocturnal. He sleeps all day and is up all night.
He's literally a college boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So you go to play volleyball like at midnight. And people go to play volleyball because they want to play volleyball with him. But then people also go to watch volleyball because between games, there's a chance that you can pull him aside to ask your question. He holds court, like literally on the volleyball court. He'll be like, so you want to ask me some questions? And everybody's just like, just dying for whatever the leader is going to say. And then I find out the whole reason he's nocturnal is because his father worked, like he was Madison Avenue guy.
Yeah.
And his mother was a terrible drunk. And he trained himself to stay up to make sure that she didn't die because she took like combos of pills
and booze.
Yeah. So this whole cult is about volleyball and middle of the night in Albany, literally just because that's that guy's own creation story, his own story of him growing up. And I'm like, how many things and how many religions have this weird thing about you can't do this or you have to do this? And it's just because that one guy liked those things.
Right. I mean, that's like, So now I'm trying to make my own cult, and like, what would my cult would be? It would be like definitely Frida Kahlo. You have to like Frida Kahlo. You have to wear lipstick once in a while. Like, it would just be weird. Shrimp. There would be a lot of shrimp involved.
And AM/PM.
AM/PM. You'd have to like get a job interning at the AM/PM. Like, we could all make our cults, man. But that, I'm gonna watch it. Is it like a 10-part series, or like, who knows?
Yeah,
it's a series.
Well, the first 2 years ago, I listened to the podcast, which is very good, and I'm re-listening to that and watching. It's on HBO.
You're really in the cult of the cult.
I'm all in it, and dude, we definitely have to write a story.
A cult story.
Yes. It's fascinating.
I think it's time. Like, I think that, you have the Handmaid's Tale cult situation, but that's a little on the nose, like, I think I definitely like what we've been talking about, which is that they make, the subtlety of you're being lured in, and also that's a cult I can get behind. Like, mm-hmm. if you really believe the things that the person is saying, then you're like, it's not a cult. It's a way of life. And that mm-hmm. is fascinating, because you're like, wait, is our cults bad? And like you had talked about before, like anything could be a cult, right? So like mm-hmm. there's a cult of people who are really into cars. You could call it a club, or you could call it a cult, So right. it's really... Right. Oh.
And it's all about the basic needs that whatever flavor of your cult satisfies, I'm sure people who are really into like I have a cousin who's really into drag racing.
Yes.
He's a thrill junkie. He also works in the military with explosive devices.
Oh,
so
wow.
He's an adrenaline junkie, right?
Right.
And he finds it wherever he can. And I don't know how into the drag racing, like if he's it really like deep into the community, but I could see him, and actually he's a very frugal guy, but I bet you anything he spends a lot of money on the drag racing.
Right. So like, what is it about? This is like so fascinating. It's like, what is it about the cult that gets you to do something you would normally never do? Like, if you're frugal and all of a sudden you're spending thousands of dollars on this cult, people are like, what mm-hmm. the hell happened to him? But and also, right, they don't happen overnight. They just don't happen overnight. And like we can talk about, like at the theater school, the cult, that literal Pentecostal cult. Most people call it a cult, right?
Absolutely.
That whole thing that overtook, that's a podcast in itself. That whole thing.
It is. And you know what's funny? I was just thinking about this the other day. I was so judgmental, and I still kind of am of that. Well, I'm not judgmental now. I totally understand why they did it now, but like I think about it and I'm like, idiots, doing this. But there I was wearing all these like hippie clothes because I became part of a group of friends who were really into the Grateful Dead.
Sure.
Which is 1,000%. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Not a bad cult, not a multi-level marketing cult.
A music cult. Like, yeah.
It's a cult. And it's a cult because they preach all of this like inclusiveness. And I don't know how it is now, but back in the day, like if somebody showed up to a Dead show wearing like goth stuff, they would be
ostracized.
They wouldn't be like, you had to be wearing the outfit, right?
It's all a cult.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Anyway,
Ah.
Patrick Belton, you survived theater school.
I did. Apparently, I made it through. I'm here.
You are. You made it through.
Yay.
You made it through, and also you are in the epicenter of. Everybody says you're the glue that holds the alum together in LA.
I like being that. That is a great. I'll take that credit with the honor.
And actually, that makes sense because you were also that connector person in school. I mean, you were the reason that. I mean, you were behind most of all the parties that I ever went to, and you always had a friend in every circle, essentially.
I agree. And you're the reason too, like 2 years ago when I visited LA, we got together with a bunch of people and it was surprisingly super fun. I was like, what is happening? Because I was like, oh, this is going to be weird. And Patrick, you organized it all and you make spaces fun, which is really a gift, and I think you had that when we were in school. I remember you school, and you can tell us your experience of it, wasn't always pleasant, but you seemed always pleasant. Or was that just all an act? Just be honest with us.
No, I had an amazing time. I look back at college and it was one of the best, some of the best years of my life. There was so many new amazing things and people and discoveries and drugs and sex and music and like all of it just sort of wrapped into one thing. So it wasn't just like, but it wasn't always a great thing. I remember finishing the day off and just being everybody, we got to that point where at some point there was like you just had your good days and then you'd have your really bad days. And I remember one day walking home from school and just like had just the worst day in class, and it was David or something, and then walking home from school and it was like pouring rain outside, and I'm like heads all down, feeling real self, and I stepped in a pile of dog shit, and then I went 10 steps further. I went 3 steps further to wipe off the dog shit, and I wiped off the dog shit in another pile of dog shit, and close the door and go to sleep and wake up tomorrow.
Tomorrow's another day. So did you always know that this is what you were going to do for college, or when did you make that decision to apply in general to theater schools if you applied to more than one? And then why did you pick DePaul?
It was between the culinary school in Hyde Park, New York, and DePaul Theater School. Those were my two spots, and then I just decided to which one will I make the least amount of money at in my future. So I'm like, I probably want to go with theater. I could probably make a little bad money over here, but I could make even worse money over here.
So, Patrick, did you go to the theater school to audition, or did you audition somewhere else?
Yes, I did audition.
Do you remember that experience?
Man, that was a long time ago. I'm 100% certain. I'm not even remember. I don't even remember what monologue, right? We had to do a monologue, and then what else was there?
I think we had to do 2 monologues. Actually, it wasn't until this very moment that I just remembered. I think we did a Shakespeare and a contemporary monologue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Rolling around on the floor. There was a lot of rolling.
So I'm going to venture that your experience was similar to what Jeff shared with us, which is his takeaway was really about his friends, the people that he became close to and that he's still very close to, that what he really gleaned from the whole experience was about having to do mostly with relationships. And it kind of seems like that may have been the same truth for you, is it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I gained a ton of insight and experience. And I would say that for sure, like, that is by far one of the big things that came out of it was the people that I spent time with there.
And when you were done, were you pursuing acting when you graduated?
Yeah, for sure. And I still do. Like, mostly commercials, and then if a friend's doing a film and stuff like that, I'll do some parts here and there. But mostly commercials, just to kind of keep up on the money side of things. I think I got a little frustrated with the whole auditioning process out here. Had some things to overcome, and on that side of things, where it was starting to beat down on my brain and not make me happy anymore. So I sort of stopped on the theatrical side, but I still do, like, I did 3 or 4 commercials last year.
What about, okay, so you said something really interesting to me, which is like, were you one of those people, how did I'm fascinated by the whole showcase process and your move to LA, because I can't remember the timeline. So how did you feel doing that?
Oh, it was great. It was great. I just remember just the feeling coming to California. I think it was the first time coming to California. I think it was my first time actually even seeing the ocean, which was like the greatest thing in the world. Like, I hadn't in my entire whatever. What year? How old were we at that point in time?
20.
Yeah, like, I had never seen the ocean. And it was like, and coming out here, the palm trees, and like everything's growing, like every color of plant, and flowers, and the sun is shining every day, and I think there's some people from our class like rented a convertible, like, we're in California.
I rented a green Camaro convertible because I am ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Acting in like the coming out period for your
you really saw the world as like this giant, like, anything can happen from here. This is like, there's no, this is going to be the beginning of this. It's very scary all at the same time, because you don't know what's going to happen. You have no idea what's going to come out of this thing, but it feels like this giant opportunity. If anything can happen from this point, and there's something just super exciting about that. I went back to Chicago and then did another year there after school, did a couple of shows there, and then moved out. I think it was more of a matter of, it was timing and money and all that. I couldn't come out right away.
Yeah. So before you ever got to the theater school, what were your expectations of what it was going to be like?
Oh, man, I had no idea. I really didn't have any sense of what it was. It was, I knew there was something going to be, incredibly exciting about college. And I love theater. I've got this huge place in my heart for theater. And I think that I just knew that this is where I needed to be.
And did you?
The ability to
first
do so.
day,
I think it was
first
like,
week.
Back in the day,
what was the experience of it? Was it surprising to you in any way?
You were in my class, right, Gina? And with David the first year.
Yep.
And I'm trying to remember all of it. It was so long ago.
Did you act in high school? Were you like a big high school actor?
Yeah, I did both. I did sports and I played soccer, and then I also did theater in high school. So it sort of like crossed both sides of the spectrum there. But yeah, I did some theater. There was this group called Firefly, and it was like a summer Firefly festival, and it was run by the South Bend Community School System, and it was this woman Furbia Engdahl, and then all these a lot of people, even still, who I stay in touch with today, who are now like out here doing film and TV work and stuff like high school with.
Wow.
Yeah. But
Patrick, what is that about you, do you think, in terms of wanting to stay connected to people or wanting to be the connector or just naturally falling into that role? Do you have any idea where that comes from? Because that's an unusual trait for people. I know very few people that connect the way you do. Like, what is that?
I'm not sure. I have 7 brothers and sisters, so that may have something to do with it. I'm like the oldest of 8 kids, so we have a pretty big family. And we grew up in this crazy community. I don't know, you may have seen it recently in the headlines of what's going on with Amy Coney Barrett and whatnot.
Or as I like to call her, Amy Cracker Barrel. Just saying. Anyway, go ahead.
So we grew up in this community, and we had but my brothers, our family has, and I think that maybe that's part of the influence of why I took it a little bit. But other than that, I still keep in touch with my exes, man. I helped Whitney do a little thing not too long ago with her movie and stuff like that.
Really?
So we always like to talk about what people's memories are of the shows they did. We learned early on that we didn't remember any of the shows we did, but now that we've had 20 of these, it's all sort of coming back.
So I did.
What do you remember? What shows did you do?
My favorite one that I did was not on the main stage. It was with Jim Osselhoff, who I got so much from a series of shorts. Oh, I did also another great one. That was not on the main stage. It was Uncle Vanya too, which was fantastic. But this one with Jim was called Diogenes the Dog, in the movement to music. I think it was in there. That was my favorite. And Uncle Vanya, probably my second favorite experience. Also not on the main stage, but then I did some children's shows.
You did Androcles and the Lion.
Yeah, Androcles and the Lion. Yeah, that's right. That was so fun and such a great cast. And then the one with Rick.
Do you remember what show you crewed for?
I remembered. What was that? Antigone.
Yeah.
Antigone. Yeah. We haven't really talked about that much on this show. That I don't know if they still do that at the theater school. I hope they do. That was a fantastic thing to make us learn about something else. I did lighting crew for one show and makeup for another show. But Antigone was actually a really good show.
It was so good. And I remember having to wash under.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was on costumes and I remember some of the older, ladies that I was washing their underwear, they were basically like, "Kid, it's your turn now, kid. You're washing my drawers." And I was like, oh, "Okay, this is going to be all right."
Who was the name? What was the girl? I can see her face who played Antigone.
Sosie Kevorkian.
Sosie Kevorkian. Wow, you really plucked that from a file, didn't you?
I thought she was a badass.
Yes,
she was. I thought she was like worldly and exotic to me, and she could act. And I was like, she knows what she's and she's not acting anymore that I know.
Her and Brocky Lutton,
something like that.
They were sort of in the same category of
fierce,
the big kids. They were like the big kids when we were freshmen.
I definitely looked up to her. Sosie in particular, I remember.
Mm-hmm. So, did you do theater after school?
I did.
After college?
Did like 1 year. Did a couple shows. I did one at Victory Gardens and one at some little really. I did one at Victory Gardens. It was the.
The Clearing.
Was that MFA director?
Yes, it was. I think it was maybe Nick Boland.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Oh, he did The Visit.
Oh, The Visit.
But
maybe I'm getting. Oh no! It was. Oh shit.
Anyone else that was blonde, but.
Well, the MFA directors were Shauna Flanagan.
It was Shauna Flanagan. Yep.
Yeah. Bella. So do you remember any of your like your intro, your second year shows? Apartment 3 pictures.
Springs Awakening. I did. That was an intro with Don Ilko, and I kissed Chris Gerber.
Oh, could be. So what like, tell us about it. Tell us about that experience. What was it like for you? I mean, you're a straight guy, so what was it like?
I just remember his. I remember the furry. I remember the scruff. Just like the first time, like you kissed it. I don't know if I've ever kissed a boy since that. It was quite an experience.
Yeah,
it was just, but that was the first thing that I remember very specifically. I was like, "You're hairy, dude. You're like I don't know if I would have expected. When you kiss a guy, there's going to be some stuff there. I just thought it would be a little softer or something."
Did you get warned and all that, Patrick? Like, were you on warning? What was the cut situation like for you, or the fear or not fear?
I don't know if I got, I don't think, did I ever get warned? I might have gotten warned one time. I don't remember. I remember it. I remember the threat of that being very scary though.
Did you fear that you were going to be cut, or did you have a plan for if that happened, or no? You were just like, I'm living in the moment.
Yeah, I had no plan. I was just like, I guess I'll just go. I'll just go on tour with Phish and never come back. That was I didn't really have any other option there at that point in time. I had no plan of any of those things. I was just like, I didn't really like an option.
That's right. You actually made quite a lot of money selling beer at Phish shows, didn't you?
I don't know if we made any money. We made enough money to be able to continue.
Okay. But you know what I remember about you and working, and I think you had another job, maybe like at Goose Island or something.
So every job, I probably worked like 12 jobs, and I worked at BW3 and Goose Island. I worked at Clark's. I worked at
that's right.
What's the Debevic? I worked at I worked at and I would just have to get a job, and then I would get a show, and then I'd have to quit or I'd get fired because I'm like, I got a show now, I can't.
I remember how your hustle. I remember because we were very occupied with just school, and it was hard to have a job, but you were always working very hard. I remember that clearly. Were you a person at Debevic who had to insult people?
Yeah, totally. I like dance on tables and insult people.
You had to?
I think, that was one of the, actually, I think I got fired from that one because I actually played some insult a little too heavy. I think that.
Oh, that's crazy because I would never guess that you would be like. But maybe secretly you were like, this is my chance to be a jerk face.
Yeah, it was more sarcasm, but it wasn't, but it was definitely fun. But I was like you had to put on like a character, and I was like this hippie, fun, loving hippie character. But I usually let the other people throw the insults. I think the manager just didn't like me because I was taking off too much for shows, rehearsals and whatnot.
It's funny to hear you describe that as a character because fun-loving hippie is sort of what I remember you being. So, but it consciously felt like you were playing a different part.
Yeah, I guess so. I had to. I think that was the easiest one to come back.
What about so obviously you're a DJ now, and I was just wondering how that love of music, theater transformed into love of music, transformed into your career, because you're a big DJ.
It's funny to say that I'm a DJ now because I haven't been DJing with this COVID shit. So, but yes, sure, I did. I transferred when I got out here. I was like, I have to figure out a way. I'm like done waiting tables. I transferred to the House of Blues out here because I worked at the House of Blues in Chicago. And then I started doing that, and I'm like, I'm so over this right now. Like, I've got to figure something else out. And I started just, I bought some gear and started working for other people. And I just love music so much. It's like, it really like hits home for me. And I'm like, this is going to be so much better if I can like figure out a way to, like, most parties are on the weekends. I can audition during the week. And then like, I can totally make this work. And it just sort of grew to have a life of its own.
You started making mixed CDs. You started making mixed CDs for Christmas in college, right? And you've done it every year since?
I started that in high school, and in like '93, I think, was my first like mixtape that I started doing like mass mixtapes. But then it transitioned into CDs, and then now there's all just now I send people links.
So I have to tell you guys, one of my cringiest memories from my entire life happened with Patrick Belton. One of those moments every time I think about it, I go, oh God. So as you both know, I really found myself in college. I mean, I found a version of myself for the first time. I had been such a rule follower, and I never did my time doing drugs at Apartment 3 with Whitney Powell. And they had a lot of parties. You guys had a lot of parties. And one day, it's like a Friday afternoon, I think you were going to have a party that night. And you were I remember that tape player right by the window in the front room.
Yes.
And you were doing something, and you said, hey, the song, would you dance to it? And I'm like, yeah. What'd you have in mind? And you were like, just you like it? Like, would you dance to it? And I remember I had like so quickly developed this whole fantasy that we were going to be, Whitney and I were going to be featured dancers at your party at Apartment 3.
But that's brilliant. And I think...
And your parties were amazing. Don Ilko came to them.
They were so fun. We were like the only freshmen who had an actual place outside of a dorm, right? So we were just like raging.
That's right. What would you say if someone said to you, "Hey, I want to go to theater school. What do you suggest?" What would you say to them, Patrick?
I would say by all means, 100% yes. Are you talking about our theater school or any theater school in general?
Either one. You could say whichever one they asked you.
Yeah, I remember like people from like, I feel like Columbia College like wasn't like the theater. We know kids like people who went to school there, and I feel like they didn't get as much out of it as we did. I could be totally wrong, but I really, our school was certainly special. But I would say to anybody going to know, it's going to give you. I'm not here, making a living at it and turn into some giant star and doing, theater and film and TV. But I had one of the most amazing experiences of my life there, and I would encourage anyone to follow their dreams and do what they want to do. And when you're at that age, that's like the time when you were most impressionable and really you're soaking in all of what life has to offer.
So you mentioned Camp Winnarainbow a little bit ago, and not everybody knows about that wonderful place. And it's just hoping you could describe it for everyone.
Yes, Camp Winnarainbow is a circus and performing arts camp in Northern California, about 3 hours north of San Francisco. And Jeffrey Brown and I, we heard about this place when we were in Chicago, and from this old family friend of ours named Don Whitley, who is known at Camp Winnarainbow as Noodle McDoodle. If people have their camp names, some people do. So anyway, he told us about this magical place up in the. Jeffrey and I had all gotten into sort of like puppets and things from like we created this puppet show from we took on the Phish tour and stuff like that, and then the idea of circus and performing arts, and we're like, we belong here, we should go teach there. We wrote, and so it's run by Wavy Gravy, who is this, for anyone who doesn't know, he's like this sort of like late 60s like clown icon activist who was at Woodstock and a part of this group called the Hog Farm, who ended up like feeding everyone at Woodstock, and Wavy was the MC. And, he's the guy that told people not to eat the brown acid when it was going around, stuff like that. But he was part of the, the Merry Prankster crew and the whole, Grateful Dead this was all things that Jeffrey and I were just completely fascinated with. So we wrote to Jahanra, who was Wadey's wife, just not even like an email. There was no emails back then. It was just like a handwritten letter, like stuck it in the mail and said, "We belong. This is the place that we belong. We want to come there." And nothing back.
Oh.
Wrote back again, and we're like, just checking to make sure you got that letter. This is where we belong. And she finally wrote back and said, "Look, you guys sound amazing, but we only hire. We're a kids camp, and typically how it works is kids go here, and then they become teen staff, and then they become staff, and we know them because they've grown up. So we typically won't hire somebody outside of that circle because we just don't know who they are, and it's kids have to be in a safe environment. We just don't know you guys." And I said, well, "Okay, look, here's what we'll do. We're going to get ourselves out there. We'll fly ourselves out there. You don't have to pay for anything. We'll come out and we'll work for free. You don't even have to pay us to work there. For the first, give us 2 weeks to let us prove ourselves to you guys."
Wow.
And that's what we did. Flew out to California, took a Greyhound bus up to Laytonville, California, 2 in the morning. I had no idea where we were, and we thought camp would just be like right there in the middle of town. And it's like another several miles outside of town. So Jeffrey and I, there was, 2 in the morning, nobody's awake at camp. We just pulled out our sleeping bags and slept in the field. Then woke up the next day and I either hitchhiked up to camp or somebody came down. I think the African camp picked us up. But anyway, we got there. We fit in. It went amazing. We ended up teaching, theater and drumming and I think and then I got into some contact juggling, and it was just an amazing place. And we worked there for a few years during school. We'd go there during the summers, and then just recently, 2 or 3 years ago, when our kids were old enough to be able to go back there, we ended up going back to camp, and so we've been teaching for the past couple of years.
Oh, that's
very
brilliant.
Cool. You said you rang a bell when you were talking about the puppet show. Can you say more about that?
Sure. Yeah. So we this band Phish that we sort of it's most people I think know. I know Gina, but Jen, the band.
I do. My mother was close friends with Trey Anastasio's father, Chuck.
Oh, okay, cool.
They worked together in New Jersey. Isn't that weird?
I never heard that.
Cool.
That's funny.
Go ahead.
So we sort of became just fascinated by this band, and we just really gravitated to them. And so the times that we weren't, during school, anytime there'd be a break, spring break, fall break, summer break, we would just be we'd either be at camp or we would be following this band everywhere they went. And Trey's thesis project from college was this story called Gamehendge, which has this sort of real theatrical element to it. And we're like, we should bring this. The story is kind of incohesive, but it does have all these themes of good and bad and evil and characters and people going, this guy opens this door and goes into this other world and meets these lizards and this knight, and there's this helping friendly book, which is like the Bible of the land, and this evil king who takes the book and steals it from the lizard people and all this. Anyway, so Jeffrey and I decided to create this puppet show to kind of bring it to life, and we're like, we'll perform it out in the parking lots at these shows, and maybe people will give it. And Sean Spratt too did it with us, and I think Lalji pinch hit a couple times. As well with a couple of characters and Suarez and Jenny helped out create the puppets for us, and we perform it in the parking lots in these places at the show before the shows, and people who knew the story were just loved it, and then people who didn't really know the story but knew some of the songs and had the music sort of pieced it together, and it was like, oh, this is how it all fits together. And it was sort of this magic little little thing.
That is so cool.
Did they ever find out about it in the band? Did anybody ever figure out in the band that you were doing it?
Yeah, we did. We got a letter from Mike Gordon, actually, because we had sent them, I think we recorded it once, and we sent them a copy of it, and Mike Gordon wrote us back a letter. He's the bassist.
Oh.
Yeah. And we got backstage one time, and I think we talked about it a little bit with John, and he had known about it but hadn't seen it yet.
That's so cool. Are you still?
So cool.
Are you still really huge fan of Phish? Is it still a big part of your life?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I love it. You really light up when you talk about, in your voice, you can just hear it and see it. It's like when you talk about Camp Winnarainbow and Phish and those times, it's like magic. It seems like magic.
Yeah, it truly is. Yeah, Camp Winnarainbow is like that place is truly magic. There's just good energy, just like oozing out of the ground. And for Phish, for me, it is like these guys are like creatively like some of the most amazing artists. They're like musical chemists. They just toy with sound like nobody I've ever seen before. And I had, so much amazing experiences, with them growing up in the 90s, but now it's sort of become this kind of like geek, it's like some people like old cars. Everybody's got their hobbies. Like this is my hobby. I've seen them, well over 200 times, and now when they, and it also becomes this sort of coming back together with old friends. It's like this, reuniting. We get people together and we'll do Tahoe for 3 days, or we'll go to New York and go 3 days there, and we'll, and just watch anytime.
Is there still parking lot culture?
A little bit, yes. There is. No, there definitely is. And it changes a little bit depending on the show, and sometimes venues allow it, sometimes they don't. But there's not so much. There's not like anything like puppet shows or anything like that happening there. They've been replaced with nitrous tanks.
And are there teenagers dressed like hippies?
For sure,
still?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
There's still people like I'd say most people are definitely our age, but I would say that there's definitely still new young people being enlightened by this music, seeing it for the first time. For sure.
That's
cool. So cool. So cool.
Boz, did you have any other questions?
I just really wanted I learned a lot about you from listening to this, because I think when we're young, it's like, oh, there's Patrick Belton. He's a fun-loving connector type. But what strikes me is you really have this passion for imagination, and it comes out in your DJ work, and it comes out in your talking about Camp Winnarainbow. And I'm so glad that you went back to Camp Winnarainbow, because those kids are so lucky to have you, and you're lucky to have them.
Yeah.
But gosh, I wish I was a kid that went to Camp Winnarainbow and had Patrick Belton as my counselor. Oh my gosh.
There's definitely this creative side of me that I have to have and do things with, There's all of us, I think that went to the theater school all have that, whether we, continue to do the acting on a regular basis or not. I think we all have that thing side of our brains that we have to, give into,
right.
Otherwise we'll just end up going insane.
Oh, thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick. This was fantastic. Thank you so much.